I never thought I'd say yes to a job like this. But desperation does strange things to people. It started 3 weeks ago. I'd been sleeping in my car behind a closed-down diner just off Route 6. I'd run out of gas 2 nights before, and I didn't have the money to refill. Most of my belongings were in a trash bag in the passenger seat, and my phone had long since stopped turning on. I was chewing a stale protein bar when I saw the flyer posted to the side of the payphone booth. It looked almost too clean, like someone had taped it up that morning. The paper was white. No tear marks, no water damage, just 3 lines printed neatly in black ink. Caretaker needed. Remote location, $2,000 a week. A number was scribbled beneath it in pen. I don't know why I called. Maybe because no one else would. Maybe because when things get quiet enough, when you're living minute to minute, 2-minute any direction, even a strange one feels like progress. A man answered on the 3rd ring. His voice was flat, but polite. He asked one question before giving me the address. Are you able to follow specific instructions without asking why? I said yes. He didn't laugh, didn't even pause, just gave me directions to a gas station in a town I'd never heard of and told me someone would pick me up there. That's how I ended up in the back of a dark green SUV, watching the trees thicken around me as we left pavement behind and started up a winding gravel trail into the woods. The driver didn't speak. He wore mirrored sunglasses even though it was dusk. We drove for what felt like an hour. No signs, no turnoffs, no sounds except tires crunching over loose rock and the low rumble of the engine. Eventually, the cabin came into view. It wasn't run down like I expected. It was too perfect. Fresh paint, windows recently cleaned, a rocking chair on the porch, swaying slightly in the wind, like it had been lived in, but not touched. I asked how long I was expected to stay. The driver just looked at me through the rearview mirror. I caught my own reflection in his lenses. My mouth was cracked at the corners. My eyes looked sunk in. Someone will explain, he said, and the car stopped. The air outside was colder than I thought it would be. There were no bird sounds, no insects, just the occasional rustle of wind through pine needles and the creak of the old porch boards beneath my feet. He handed me the keys and drove away without another word. The tires left a faint dust trail that hung in the air long after the vehicle was gone. That night, I sat alone in the main room of the cabin. I didn't explore much, just enough to find the bedroom and check the fridge, which was empty except for a gallon of water and 3 glass jars of something thick and red. No label, no date. I turned on the fireplace and sat in the armchair, watching the flames twist and curl in silence. I thought maybe I'd made it. Maybe this was finally a break. Then I noticed something strange. A small envelope tucked under the front door. My name written on it. Neat, steady handwriting. I hadn't heard anyone knock, hadn't heard a car, but someone had been here, and they knew who I was. The envelope was sealed with a wax stamp-an old-fashioned thing I hadn't seen outside of movies. The symbol pressed into the wax looked like an eye, wide open, with a line running vertically through the pupil. Inside was a single sheet of folded paper. Same neat handwriting. The letter read, "Caretaker instructions. Read carefully. 1. Lock all doors and windows by 9 p.m. Double-check the basement latch. Do not open them again until sunrise. 2. Do not acknowledge voices calling from outside, no matter what they say or sound like. 3. At exactly midnight, check the mirror in the upstairs hall. If your reflection is missing, do not look away. Blink once, then walk backward until it returns. 4. Between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m., you may hear footsteps above you. The attic is empty. Do not investigate. 5. If a second envelope appears addressed to someone else, burn it immediately in the fireplace. Do not read it. 6. Never enter the woods after dark. If you see someone among the trees, go inside and close your eyes until sunrise. 7. No one is scheduled to visit the cabin. If someone knocks, do not open the door. At the bottom, in smaller handwriting, you were chosen because you said yes. Obey these rules, and you'll be fine. I read the page 3 times. My first instinct was that it was a prank, or some kind of elaborate art project. Maybe the owners had a twisted sense of humor, but the envelope still smelled like burnt wood and dried leaves. There was something cold and sterile about the ink, like it had been printed by something that didn't breathe. I folded it and put it in my jacket pocket. Told myself I'd play along, at least for the first night. I needed the money, needed the shelter. I couldn't afford to be picky. The cabin itself was cozy in an artificial way, like it had been staged to feel safe. Plaid curtains, a heavy old-fashioned clock ticking on the mantel, wood-paneled walls, and a thick rug in the living room. But there was no dust, no wear. It looked lived in, but not by a person. I explored more that second day, keeping mental notes of the layout. The bedroom had a window facing the woods. It stuck a little when I tried to close it, and I had to press down hard on the latch. I remembered rule number 1 and made a mental note to check it again before dark. The upstairs hallway was narrow and lined with old photographs. Most of them were in black and white. People standing in the snow, always facing the camera. No smiles. Their eyes seemed little too aware, like they knew something ID in single quotes. The mirror mentioned in rule number 3 hung at the end of that hallway. Oval-shaped, antique, the kind you see in funeral homes. I avoided it during the day, just in case. The attic door was a small square panel in the hallway ceiling with a pull cord. I didn't try to open it, didn't even look at it for long. The air around it felt colder, and not in a way I could explain. Around dusk, I stood on the porch and looked out over the trees. The forest surrounded everything. No other houses, no distant roads, just endless green turning black as the light drained out of the sky. I checked the time, 8:42 p.m. Inside, I went room to room, testing each window, each lock. The basement latch was rusted, but it slid into place after some effort. It felt good to do something physical, something simple. By 9 p.m., every entry was sealed. I sat by the fire again, listening. Silence. Then, around 10:15, I heard something. Knew a voice. It came from the back of the house, faint, like someone calling from a great distance. I stood, heart frozen, and listened harder. It called my name, not in a whisper, not in a moan, but casual, friendly, the way someone might call out to an old friend from a driveway. "Hey, it's me. Can you open up?" I stayed completely still. "Come on, man. I know you're in there." It was a voice I recognized. Sounded like my brother. But my brother died 3 years ago. Car crash. Closed casket. I backed slowly into the center of the room, keeping my eyes on the back door. I didn't say anything. Didn't move. Eventually, the voice faded. No footsteps. No retreating crunch on gravel. Just silence, thick and crushing, settling back into place like a lid. I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like the house was leaning in, watching me, measuring how well I followed directions. In the morning, everything seemed normal again, but the envelope was gone. Not where I left it. Not in my jacket pocket, just gone, and in its place, sitting neatly on the dining table, was a fresh envelope. This time, it wasn't addressed to me. It was sealed in red wax, and the name written on it wasn't one I recognized. I stared at the envelope on the table for a long time. It was addressed in the same neat handwriting as the first, but the name was different. Evelyn Murray. I didn't know anyone by that name. I thought back to the rules. Rule number 5 stood out clearly in my mind. If a second envelope appears addressed to someone else, burn it immediately in the fireplace. Do not read it. But I didn't move. Curiosity has a texture and itch behind the eyes, and in that moment, it overpowered everything else. I picked it up. The wax cracked slightly under my fingers. I didn't open it, not right away. I just held it, feeling the paper's strange weight. It was slightly warm. That was the first wrong thing. The cabin was cold. The fire from the night before had long since died out, but this envelope felt like it had just been sitting in sunlight. Still, I peeled it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded once. I unfolded it carefully, half expecting it to scream or bleed or vanish. It didn't, just said, "You're not supposed to see this. She's coming. She doesn't like sharing." No signature, no instructions, no return address, just those words, centered on the page. I stood frozen, heart ticking unevenly in my chest. A draft swept through the room, and one of the curtains lifted slightly. I looked toward the window and saw someone standing at the edge of the tree line, far enough that I couldn't make out their face, still, upright, watching. The paper slipped from my hands. I stumbled backward and shoved it into the fireplace, just as rule number 5 had instructed. It caught quickly, curling into black flakes. The figure didn't move. I stared at it for what felt like hours, but it never stepped closer. Eventually, I pulled the curtains shut. That night, I checked every lock 3 times. I bolted the basement latch and set a heavy chair under the front doorknob. At 9 p.m., the house went still. At 10 p.m., the voice came back. This time, it didn't call my name. It just cried. A soft, wet sobbing, like someone had collapsed just outside the back window. I covered my ears and sat in the corner, counting the seconds. I told myself it wasn't real, that I hadn't really broken the rule. I'd burned the letter, hadn't I? Eventually. But around midnight, I remembered rule number 3, the mirror. I didn't want to check it. My legs felt too heavy, but something in me said not checking would be worse. I climbed the stairs slowly, holding my breath. The hallway seemed longer than before, stretched like taffy. The mirror waited at the end, still cold. When I reached it, I stopped and stared. My reflection was there, but it didn't move. I tilted my head slightly. It stayed still. I opened my mouth. Nothing. A delay, like a broken feed. Like it wasn't a reflection at all, just a photograph, waiting for something. I remembered the rule. If your reflection is missing, do not look away. Blink once, then walk backward until it returns. My reflection wasn't missing, but it wasn't right either, so I did it anyway. I blinked. Nothing changed. I began stepping backward, slowly, carefully. 1 step, 2, 3, the lights flickered. On the 4th step, my reflection smiled. I hadn't. I turned and ran down the stairs, into the living room. I stayed awake the rest of the night, sitting with my back to the fire, facing the windows, listening for footsteps or voices, or worse, none came. But when dawn finally broke, there was a scratch on the inside of the mirror, like something had tried to get out. The scratch on the mirror wasn't big, maybe 6 inches long, thin and jagged, like it had been carved by a fingernail, but it was inside the glass, not on the surface. I ran my finger across it and felt nothing, perfectly smooth. I didn't touch the mirror again. That morning, I checked every corner of the cabin, every drawer, every window. I opened the fridge still, just water and those strange red jars. I didn't dare open one. By noon, I was pacing. There was no cell signal, no Wi-Fi, no way to contact the outside world, no books, no TV, just time, a heavy, pressing weight of it. I was halfway through making a list of things I'd seen. Mirror, voices, figure in the woods, when I noticed something else. The front door was unlocked. I knew I'd locked it the night before, triple-checked it, wedged the chair beneath the knob, but now it hung slightly open, not wide, just enough for cold air to slip through. I stepped closer and saw something on the porch, A footprint bare, human, toes curled slightly, like whoever made it had been standing still in the cold for too long. It pointed toward the door, not away. I slammed it shut and relocked every bolt. Then I checked the basement latch, still sealed. That was when I heard it, a voice inside the house. This one didn't call from outside. It came from the second floor, a woman's voice, calming. It was faint, like it was coming from the attic. I pressed my ear to the ceiling. The tune was something old, something I couldn't place. Notes floated gently above me, like breath-fogging glass. I thought of rule number 4, between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. You may hear footsteps above you. The attic is empty. Do not investigate. But it wasn't 2 a.m. It was daylight, bright and safe. I told myself that mattered, so I pulled the cord. The attic door creaked open slowly, revealing a narrow ladder. Cold air spilled down like water. I hesitated at the base of the ladder, staring up into the dark square above. The humming had stopped, heart hammering. I climbed. The attic was surprisingly large, dustless, like the rest of the house, wooden. Beams crossed overhead. A single bulb swung slightly from a chain, though there was no wind. Nothing moved, nothing hummed. Then I saw her dot in the far corner. She was facing the wall, knees drawn up to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around her legs. Long black hair obscured her face. Her back rose and fell slowly. She didn't react when I climbed up. I stood frozen. Every part of me screamed to leave, to go back down, to run. Then she moved. Her head turned slightly, just enough for me to see one wide pale eye staring back over her shoulder, and she smiled, a voice not hers, but mine whispered from her mouth, "You weren't supposed to come here." I fell backward down the ladder, hit the floor hard and scrambled to my feet. Slamming the attic shut above me, I pushed a bookshelf beneath the trapdoor and backed away until my spine hit the far wall. My shoulder throbbed. My vision blurred at the edges. The rest of the day passed in silence. I didn't eat, didn't move. That night, I followed every rule, locked everything, ignored the whispering outside, avoided the mirror. No envelope came, but sometime around 3 a.m., I heard something heavy dragging across the attic floor, back and forth, as if she was waiting. I didn't sleep again after that. Every sound in the attic felt personal, like it wasn't just someone moving above me, but someone watching, learning how I moved, how I reacted. The dragging noise stopped just before dawn. Silence filled the house again like a returning tide. I waited until the sun was fully up before leaving the living room. The attic door hadn't opened. The bookshelf I'd shoved beneath it was untouched. Still, I needed answers. I couldn't keep living like this, paranoid, trapped by rules, afraid of mirrors and empty hallways, so I decided to search the house more carefully. There had to be something I'd missed. The basement was the only place I hadn't explored. The latch had been stuck the first night, but I managed to pry it open now with a crowbar I found under the sink. It opened onto a narrow, unfinished stairwell that smelled like wet stone and old iron, the kind of air that clung to your skin. I clicked on the flashlight app on an old burner phone I'd brought just to tell time, and descended. The steps creaked with each movement. The basement was colder than it should have been, not just unheated, but unnaturally still. Like the cold didn't come from lack of insulation, but something deeper. The space was larger than expected. The ceiling arched in a way that felt architectural, like it had been carved into shape, rather than built. That's when I saw the door at the far end of the room. Past rusted shelves and half-collapsed crates stood a heavy wooden door with a strange symbol carved into it, the same eye from the first envelope. I turned the knob. It didn't budge. I was about to turn away when I noticed the corner of something sticking out from behind a broken crate. A plastic binder wedged under a loose floor tile. I yanked it free. Dust flew off in a thick cloud. The binder was stuffed, with papers, photos, and handwritten notes, yellowed, torn. Some of the pages had deep scratches across them, as if something had tried to erase words with claws. The earliest entry was dated May 1993. Entry 1, Caretaker Log, M. Adley Day. 1. Arrived this morning. Wasn't told much, except to keep the place secure and not ask questions. House feels strange, like it's too quiet. Got a list of rules, handwritten, seemed paranoid. But money's money. The entries continued sporadic at first, then daily by. Day 5. The tone shifted. Heard footsteps overhead. Thought maybe animals, but didn't see anything. Rules say not to check. I almost did. Something told me to stay put. Glad I listened. Day 8. A letter showed up. Not for me. Burned it like the rules said. Smoke smelled like flowers. Not rosy, something sweeter. Almost passed out afterward. Day 11. Saw her in the attic. Just for a second. She was crouched in the corner, whispering to herself. When I blinked, she was gone. The mirror downstairs cracked later that night. I flipped further. More names appeared. S. Wallace, D. Kim, N. Everett. Each signed their entries like prisoners, scratching notches into the wall. Some made it days, some weeks, a few months. None of them made it out. The last legible entry was dated 2011. The handwriting was jagged, slanted. If you're reading this, you've broken at least one rule. That's how she finds you. She doesn't like people who know too much. If you see her reflection where yours should be, run. Don't look, don't think, just run. Below that was a crude sketch. A woman with long hair, black eyes, and no mouth, just rows of teeth. Going too far back. I spent the rest of the day flipping through the binder. Some entries mentioned Evelyn Moore, the name on the envelope I'd opened. She wasn't a caretaker. She was something else. A visitor. One entry stood out, written in bold pen and circled several times. No date, no name. The envelope is a test. If you open hers, you're sharing your place. Underneath that, she's not the only one who wants in, but she's the only one they let stay. The pages after that were torn out. I brought the binder upstairs and locked the basement behind me. I sat at the dining table, heart thudding, flipping pages in circles, rereading the same lines over and over. I didn't know what disturbed me more. The fact that this had been going on for decades, or the fact that no one outside the cabin ever seemed to notice. No missing person reports, no news, no online posts, just a rotating cycle of desperate people, too alone to be missed, just like me. That night, I didn't sleep. I see OULDN, single quotes, T. At midnight, my reflection was late, not gone, just delayed. Like it needed to be summoned. Blinked once. It appeared but slightly wrong. My mouth didn't move when I whispered to it. My hand waved, but its fingers lagged, like a puppet pulled by an impatient string. I walked backward. The reflection adjusted. I didn't smile. It didn't either. Then it winked, and I ran. When dawn came, I opened the front door for the first time in days. The woods were quiet, still. But nailed to the porch railing, crooked and rust-stained, was a Polaroid photograph of me sleeping in the armchair from last night. I didn't remember falling asleep, but there I was, caught in that Polaroid, slumped in the armchair, face tilted toward the fire. It was taken from inside the cabin. The angle was from the far corner of the room, where the shadows pooled deepest after midnight. Someone had been there while I slept. My hands shook as I held the photo. I turned it over. On the back, written in thick black marker, "Don't blink anymore." I dropped it, stepped back inside, locked the door, but something had changed. The house felt different. Every board creaked louder. The walls seemed to breathe, just faintly, like they were exhaling each time I turned my head. I thought about the rules. about how specific they were, how absolute. They weren't for my safety. Not really. They were for containment. Keeping something out or keeping something in. That night, I followed the rules as best I could. Locked the doors by 9 p.m. Ignored the whispering. Sat with my back to the mirror, but something wasn't following them. At exactly 2:14 a.m., I heard the footsteps again, not above me, not in the attic. Inside. Down the hallway. Bare feet, soft, but wet, as if something was tracking mud across the wood. I sat frozen in the armchair, staring at the empty hallway, waiting for whatever was coming to show itself. The fire crackled once, then she appeared, not in the hallway, in the mirror. I caught the movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned slowly and there she was, standing behind me, pale skin, hollow cheeks, long black hair dripping as if she'd just come in from the rain. But it hadn't rained in days. Her mouth hung slightly open, no lips, just teeth, long and narrow, and wrong. Her eyes were solid black, not void, not shadow, just absence. I didn't turn around. If she was really behind me, I didn't want to know. But her reflection tilted its head, slowly, and in my voice, she said, "We can't both stay here." Then she walked forward inside the mirror, until her hand pressed against the glass. It smudged, leaving a pale streak. The streak appeared on the outside of the mirror. She was crossing through. I bolted, ran to the front door. It wouldn't open. The locks turned, but the wood refused to budge. Like the house itself had decided I wasn't allowed to leave. Behind me, I heard a soft knock, not at the door, at the mirror. 3 gentle taps, then a crack. I turned just in time to see the glass split down the middle, a hairline fracture that began to widen, slowly, like something pushing from the other side. I ran upstairs, slammed the bedroom door, locked it, paced, thought, tried to remember everything from the binder, every name, every clue. Then I saw the envelope sitting on the bed, addressed to me again, wax, sealed in black. I didn't open it. I threw it into the fireplace upstairs. There was a smaller one in the bedroom, and watched it burn. The flame turned blue. The entire room flickered, like the walls couldn't decide what time of day it was. Shadows lengthened, then snapped back, and then I heard her. Not in the attic, not in the mirror, in the bedroom, breathing. I didn't look. I couldn't. She whispered from somewhere just behind the bed frame, "You let me in." A pressure built in my head, like altitude sickness. My ears popped. My vision narrowed. I crawled under the bed, pressed my hands to my ears. The breathing followed, slow, purposeful. Then I remembered the basement, the locked door with the eye symbol. I needed to get there now. I sprinted down the stairs, through the living room, past the cracked mirror. It had shattered fully now. Long slivers of glass scattered across the floor, all reflecting slightly different versions of the room. Some with furniture missing, some where the fire was dead, one where I wasn't alone. I didn't stop down into the basement. The air felt thicker, harder to move through. I reached the door, pulled hard. Still locked, I screamed and slammed my shoulder into it. Again. Then just as I gave up, it opened on its own. Darkness inside, no light. I stepped through. The door slammed shut behind me. Inside was stone, cold, ancient stone walls, lined with carvings, more eyes, more symbols. At the center was a circle of salt. Inside it, a chair and a skeleton, sitting perfectly upright, clutched in its bony hand. A photo of me, standing in the woods, waving. I backed away. The air shifted. The temperature plummeted. Behind me, her voice, "I've had others, but you read her letter." I turned. She was standing in the corner, not pale now, but rotting. Skin peeled from her face in long strips, fingers too long, mouth full of broken glass. She stepped forward. Her feet didn't touch the ground. I tried to run, but the door was gone. Just wall now. Stone, endless and smooth. She raised one hand and pointed to the salt circle. Sit. I didn't. I ran to the far side of the room. Smashed at the stone with my fists. Screamed. The only answer was the sound of chairs scraping in the dark. Behind me, multiple chairs. I turned. The circle now held 3 figures, all skeletons, all holding Polaroids. All of me. I don't know how long I was in that stone room. Time lost shape. The air pressed in. The temperature never changed. I screamed until my throat gave out. Clawed at the walls until my nails split. And then without sound or signal, the door returned. Just ... there. I didn't question it. I ran through and didn't stop until I collapsed in the middle of the living room. The mirror was gone. Only a warped shadow remained where it had been mounted. The fire was cold. The cabin no longer felt like it belonged to the world outside. I must have passed out. When I woke, it was daylight again, and someone was knocking 3 soft raps on the door. I froze. Rule number 7. No one is scheduled to visit the cabin. If someone knocks, do not open the door. But this time, it wasn't night. It was full daylight, and a voice followed. It's James. I'm with the agency. We spoke on the phone. I blinked. Tried to remember. The man who'd hired me never gave a name. He asked if I could follow instructions and then gave directions. No formal offer. Number paperwork. But the voice outside sounded real. Human. You've been there 5 days, right? That's the usual cycle. You should have gotten the envelope with the exit clause. I stood, slowly, and moved to the door. Still didn't open. It what clause? I asked through the wood. A pause. Then, if the second envelope was addressed to someone else, you were supposed to burn it immediately. If you didn't, another pause. Well, then I'm too late. I pressed my forehead against the door. You sent me here without warning. You knew. We always hope they don't show up, he said, but they always do. My stomach turned. Who is she? Silence. Then, Evelyn Moray was the first caretaker. 1967. She broke every rule within 24 hours. We found the place empty except for her reflection, still smiling in the mirror. We tried to get her out. We tried everything. He sounded tired, like someone who'd recited this 100 times. You shouldn't have opened her letter, he said again. She's bonded now. If you've seen her in the mirror, if she's spoken to you, it's already begun. What has? I asked. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're becoming the house. I laughed, or maybe cried. I couldn't tell anymore. How do I stop it? I asked. The voice grew distant. You don't. Footsteps. Gravel crunching. I yanked the door open. No one was there, just trees. A cold breeze, and another Polaroid nailed to the railing again. This one showed him James, the man I just spoke to, standing in the cabin's upstairs hallway, looking at the mirror in the photo. There wasn't a reflection. I ran upstairs, tore open the attic door, climbed the ladder, empty. No whispering, no shadows, just dust now. The same corner where she once crouched was bare, but etched into the floorboards, fresh and sharp, were 7 words. You made it further than the others. I returned to the living room, sat. The binder lay open beside me. On a page I hadn't seen before, a final note, hand-scrawled, in thick red ink. If James comes back, don't trust him. He's been here longer than any of us. My blood went cold, so he hadn't come to help. He came to check in, to see if I'd survived long enough to become part of it, to replace someone. Maybe Evelyn, maybe him, maybe all of them. I couldn't stay another night. The house had teeth, not physical ones, but something worse. A slow, creeping absorption, the kind that wears you down without you noticing. Each day, I forgot a little more about who I was before the cabin, what my voice used to sound like, what year it was. I needed to leave, even if it killed me. I packed only what mattered: the binder, the Polaroids, the burner phone. The rest could rot. At dawn, I stepped outside and didn't look back. The woods were still, but not quiet. There was a low, almost inaudible hum in the trees, like something watching from behind the bark. I moved fast, followed the gravel road, hoping it still led back to that gas station. My lungs burned. My feet ached. Every so often I'd glance back. The cabin never got smaller. No matter how far I walked, it remained there just beyond the trees, waiting. At some point, I started seeing things in the woods. First it was shapes tall and unmoving, like people pretending to be trees. Then it was faces, my own face, watching from the shadows. And then, a voice. "You forgot the rules." I ignored it. "She never leaves. Neither will you." I ran. I don't know how long I moved. My legs carried me on instinct. Time felt broken, like a scratched record skipping between frames. Eventually, I saw the clearing. The dirt road, a rusted sign, 6 pines to 3 miles. I was close, but someone was standing in the middle of the road. Not Evelyn, not the man from the mirror. James, still in that pressed shirt, still calm. He raised a hand. "You can't take it out," he said. "The binder, the photos. That's how she spreads, how she finds new homes." I backed up. "You lied to me." "I told you the truth," he said. "Just not all of it." His eyes darkened. Not black like hers, but empty, like something had scooped out the soul behind them. She was here, long before this cabin. We didn't create her. We just found her and gave her a place to rest. I tightened my grip on the binder. "Then why trap people?" He smiled. "Because if no one's watching her, she wanders. And if she wanders," he trailed off. Let the sentence hang in the air like a noose. I could feel the weight of the house again, even out here, like it had stretched something behind me. A tether. The binder pulsed slightly in my hands. The pages felt warm. Breathing. I had a choice. Run and let her follow me, or go back and finish the cycle. Be the next caretaker. Keep her inside. Lock the doors. Burn the notes. Obey. The thought made my stomach turn, but so did the idea of unleashing her. James stepped aside. "Your call," he said. "That's the final rule. Everyone gets one chance to leave. Not everyone does." I didn't answer. I just looked at the binder. And then, without warning, I dropped it right there on the road, lit a match, watched the pages curl and blacken. The photos caught last. My sleeping face, James in the hall, Evelyn's handprint. All of it turned to ash. James didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. The humming stopped. The trees went still. The cabin was gone. Not distant, not hidden. Gone. I kept walking. Made it to the gas station around noon. Bought water. Barely spoke. The clerk didn't ask where I came from. Just rang up my purchase and smiled. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, but I wasn't. Not really. Something still followed me. In reflections, in windows, but she hasn't spoken again. It's been 6 weeks. I'm in a different state now. New name, cheap motel with a working lock and a view of the highway. The nightmares haven't stopped. Some nights, I wake up to the sound of footsteps above me, even though I'm on the top floor. Other times, it's the mirror, my reflection slow, or too still, or smiling when I'm not. But I don't open envelopes. Not anymore. 2 days ago, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. The message was only 5 seconds long. A woman humming, the same tune I heard in the attic last night. The mirror in the motel bathroom cracked down the center. I didn't touch it. I didn't look long. This morning, taped to my door was an envelope. No wax seal this time. Just one sentence written on the front. "We never really leave. We just take turns." I burned it in the sink. Watched the smoke crawl up the wall and vanish into the vent like it knew the way. I still have the photo. The one I found in the basement. Me, standing in the woods, waving. I shouldn't have kept it, but I couldn't help myself. It's changing. Last night, the version of me in the photo had black eyes. Tonight, it's smiling. Tomorrow, I don't want to know. I passed another gas station flyer this morning. Different state, different name, but same offer. Caretaker needed. Remote location, $2,000 a week. Same handwriting, same number. I didn't call, but someone will. They always do. Somewhere, in some distant place the world has forgotten. The cabin is waiting again. Wood rebuilt, locks reset, mirror clean, fireplace stacked and ready, and in the far corner of the attic, Evelyn will be watching, smiling.